Welcome. Lovely to be with you all. Yeah, so beautiful. So beautiful. Yes, and hello to you too. Getting together. Yeah, how beautiful. All right. So, oh, looky there. My old friend Chad. Good to see you, Chad. Good to see you. I've been thinking a lot about you. Yeah, so much. Sending you lots of love. So, it's nice to see you here. All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. Two big announcements. We have a retreat coming up November 3rd through the 5th. I hope you can join. And the second one is I have a new Kundalini course, and it's through the When Lightning Strikes community through their platform. I believe it's kundalini101.com if you're interested in taking that course. And I'm going to do 4 group sessions to go along with that course. I'm going to do it in 2 ways. One, it's just a self-guided thing. And then also I'm doing a more of a teaching group that goes along with it. I hope that's not confusing. The third thing I want to announce is we are in the midst of everyone's doing their time change. I think Australia already did theirs. We're going to do ours in the US sometime. I'm not sure when, and the Europeans do it sometime. So just everyone pay attention to that. Do the math, check it twice. Okay. Well, let's start by this. Let's start by just shutting down our eyes and connecting directly with that which is awake and aware. With that which is awake and aware in this moment. This very fundamental practice. And so as you feel inside, if we let go of all the thoughts, if we let go of identification with our emotional nature, we just start with this most basic fundamental question. What is it that's here right now? And is present to the sound of my voice? What is this presence? Before anything happens, before any arising of thought or any emotion, any belief system, any dogma, what is here that is fundamentally awake, aware, that's fundamentally innocent and pure? And can we step into this essence that we are? Can we allow ourselves to be so utterly simple? Can we notice the various qualities of this essence? The quality of silence and space, a gentle radiance and aliveness, and how about love? Do you know that your fundamental nature is good, is pure, and is love itself? And so we're just investigating here. We're opening here. We're acknowledging what we are. And for some of us, again, it's easy to get entangled and meshed in the mind, the personality self. But if we step back beyond that, can you see that your fundamental nature is a silent, awake, aware, spacious, loving radiance? And can you see, can you acknowledge that this silent, awake, aware, loving radiance it's always been here. It's never been destroyed. Never been harmed. But it's eternally here. Eternally here. It may feel like we've been beat up every now and then. And that's the ego. That's the personality. That's the body. But your essence, can you see right now? It's imperishable, unharmable, indestructible. It's eternal. And so I invite you to smile a little bit and to trust a little more and open with this recognition. This recognition that I don't have to be so guarded. I don't have to be tight and tense. I can be radically open in this moment. And so beautiful. So beautiful. And so welcome to Satsang. It's good to see you all. You can open your eyes if you like. And I'd like to share a question that came in. But first, sometimes when I see some of you, just like my heart just breaks so open. So again, Chad, so good to see you. So good to see you. Welcome back. Yeah, welcome back. So much love for you and so much respect. So yeah. All right. So this question came in and I kind of mashed a couple questions together. And this is a question that we've all had on the path. We've all had this question. So it goes something like this. Dear Guruji, I have lost my God. I have lost my way. My emotions rule me. My desires rule me. I'm addicted to my phone. I take my thoughts and emotions to be real. This is a fun part of it. Sometimes I want to kill and destroy. I do not practice. What is the way to peace? What is the way to peace? Recently I started to reread some of the lives of the great Indian saints, like Swami Nityanandaji. And, like the questions are always, dear Guruji, Guruji, help me, please. I am lost. I am lost. And, any of us who've been at all tuned in to the news, this last week, it's just been horrific. It's been so horrific. And it's easy to question, like when we see our world at war, when we see children, whether it's being kidnapped or being bombed or being shot, or adults, I mean, whoever, but the, like that recent image of like the young girl being taken away. I think she was like taken away, kidnapped, thrown in the back of the Jeep. And it really shook me to my core because that young girl looks like my oldest daughter, just like looks just like her. And just seeing, those young men just grabbing her by her hair, it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see such a thing. But when I stand back far enough, I can see myself, I can see all of us, if we're honest. And the one being, kidnapped, but I can also see myself in the abuser. And whether that's the one who's, taking advantage of someone, or so angry that you want to shoot someone, or so angry you want to bomb someone and destroy, apartment buildings. As human beings, we incarnate into this world under such bizarre circumstances. Such bizarre circumstances. Like I have a friend, I was hanging out with him today, and we're fathers of girls. And so we took our girls to it's like this big pumpkin patch, out in the country today. And he had his little baby girl with him. It's like we just all come into this world as these little babies, so innocent, so pure, so sweet. And that innocence and that purity, it is what we are. It's always been what we are. But on top of that, we have these egos, these nervous systems that get so lost. And just like the question goes, like, dear Guruji, I lost my way. I lost my way. And it's like, how many times a day do we lose our way? How many times a day do we forget our innocence and our purity, and instead we just go with our crazy thoughts, our crazy volatile emotions? How many times a day do we do that? And so the question is always like, how do I come back to the truth? Now, if we ask a great guru, they'll say something simple like, repeat the name of God. To repeat the name of God, have the name of God on the tip of your tongue in every moment. And I can remember when I was young on the path, I had this as a practice. Oh, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Oh, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. It's all day long, all day long. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Just all day long, all day long. And when I turn on the news and see the pain and the destruction, my mantra changes a little bit to something like, Jesus Christ, have mercy upon us. Like, Holy Mary, have mercy upon us. Please, Divine Mother, come here. Save us, help us, support us. Please end this great suffering. The teachings of all the great masters have taught us this very paradoxical teaching that all is God. That all is God. And this is such a shocking thing to say in a time of war. It's a very easy thing to say during a retreat or during satsang. But, it seems like just such a crazy and wild thing to say that all is God. And when people are being bombed, when people have been kidnapped, when people have been shot, and so it's very difficult to go right away to the highest truth. So when we've lost our way, sometimes we just need to find a very simple teaching. A very simple teaching. A teaching that calls us into the immediacy of the moment, where we can come into contact with our heart, where we can come into contact with spacious awareness. But even coming into contact with your heart during a time of war, normally we're met with just such sadness, such heartache. So sometimes even the heart, the love in our heart is difficult to connect to. I'm finding that all this week, if I just feel into my heart, it's just this tremendous sadness. And this sadness is a doorway to great compassion. And in order to find our way back to the truth, we have to be honest about what is here in our heart, what's here in this world. We have to be honest about the truth of our nature. Sometimes as human beings, we think that being honest just means we're going to scream our emotions to the world, letting everyone know. But that's only being honest about one part of ourselves. The part that's hurting. In order to step into the truth, we have to reconnect to the hugeness of our nature. And that can take a little bit of time. And so it may start with repeating the names of God. And that may work, that may take us directly in. But for most of us this week, as we come into contact with our heart, we find just tremendous outrage. And the great question, for any spiritual person, this is actually the focus of our retreat coming up, is, well, what does it mean to be sane? What does it mean to be clear? What does it mean not to take a side? And can we be willing to step way back and look deeply and honestly at the human condition? Like the Buddha, he spoke about it in a very basic way. Life is dukkha. And it just gave us this blanket statement for all of human lives, that life is dukkha. Life is suffering. I don't like that teaching so much, but it's one of the ways that the Buddha taught. He just started with that as a basic teaching. When I look out at life, I see like life is this incredible paradox of being absolutely divine, and then most human beings being absolutely crazy at the same time. At the same time, it's such a bizarre setup to come into this world. And again, like when I was with my friend's little baby. I mean, the baby's like maybe 6 months old. I don't even know if it's 6 months old. Maybe it is 6 months old, but it's a sweet little girl. And I look in her eyes and I see such purity, such goodness, such innocence. And then when I look out at most adults, I see, well, a heck of a lot of confusion, a heck of a lot of confusion. And for most of us, we wear a mask, a costume all the time. And it's not even Halloween. We wear this costume of being disgruntled, being agitated, being angry, being political, of being right. Like that's such an interesting costume to wear. Because I'm right all the time. I know it all. You're wrong. And sometimes the costume is, I'm an addict. Sometimes it's I'm the tough guy. I'm the wimp. That's a real interesting costume for me. It's like when people just identify with being a wimp or being lost, being confused, being so utterly sensitive. But we make this mistake where we put on a costume, or we're given a costume. Maybe that's more accurate, is our nervous system, our world, our culture gives us a costume. The two big costumes this week in the news has been the Jewish costume and the Palestinian costume. And for some reason, these two can't see that they're brothers, that they're cousins, that we're all human. We're all divine. We're all divine. I saw a little show about this mosque in Jerusalem. And forgive me, I can't pronounce it. I can't remember the name of the mosque. But this mosque in Jerusalem, it's a place where Jesus came and he prayed. It probably wasn't a mosque then. It was the the Temple on the Mount, I believe is what it was called. And then the Jews go there also. And the Wailing Wall is there. The Jews are like, they pray on the outside, the Muslims pray on the inside. And, there's this rule that Jews aren't allowed in it, or maybe they're allowed in it, but they're not allowed to pray in it. No one's allowed to pray in it except for a Muslim. And the Jews have been going into this temple, upsetting the Muslims. I'm sure there's some Christians that want to go in and pray there because Jesus, once stood there and prayed. And like all of a sudden, like when I was listening to this, like this very complex story of this little piece of dirt in Jerusalem that now has this very beautiful mosque on it. But it just seemed like sometimes my little girl has some of her friends over and they're all fighting over one doll. Like they're just all fighting over. They all want to play with the doll. They all want to be in charge of the doll. They all want to name the doll. They're all screaming at each other. It's like, as human beings, sometimes we get so stuck in our tribal dynamic, so stuck in our power struggle that we forget this basic truth, that all is God, all is divine. My God, it's a temple. Let's open the doors. Can we all pray together in a temple? Can we all pray? But many of us cannot. Some of us in this temple here say, "Oh, I couldn't pray next to a Trump supporter. I couldn't pray next to a Biden supporter. I couldn't pray next to this or that." And of course, we don't say this out loud. But as human beings, we have this disease of division. And every great sage, every great Guruji has taught this basic teaching: all is God. All is God. And so that's the invitation to come back on the path, is to begin to see that everything is divine. That which is holy and that which appears unholy is all divine. May not be the highest manifestation of the divine, but is all made of the same fabric, the same cloth. This is a great challenge for each of us. For each of us to see that all is divine. Everyone, everything, every experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, was put forth in motion by the divine, was allowed for by the divine, and of course is made of the divine. And the egoic mind always says, well, how could that be? Because our egoic mind has a thought that God is good, and there's this thing called bad. And if something is bad, it is not God. And when we allow our ego to think in this way, our mind to think in this way, we begin to suffer greatly. We begin to cut up God into the God I like and the things I don't like. those I love, those I don't love, the experiences I accept and welcome, and the experiences I push away. So to circle back to this question, and basically it's a question about how to come back. How to come back once we've been lost on the path. How to come back. So the invitation here, in this Sangha, is we come back to the path through reconnecting to our heart. And that means we must be courageous enough to feel. And so if we're going to reconnect to our heart and be courageous, we're connecting to our heart and our hara. And when we connect to our heart and our hara, our mind becomes silent. We see the truth everywhere. We see it everywhere. And so the doorway is through this willingness to be open, the willingness to experience and not turn away, the willingness to see life as it is and not divide it up into bits. These are my people, and these are the people I'm against. These are the ones I love, and these are the ones I don't love. That game will not work on the spiritual path. It works quite well on the religious path, which I never understood. But some people like religion more so than they like spirituality. It just seems so utterly crazy. So utterly crazy. To love one thing and to hate another. And so I listened, I think it was last week, I listened to this astrologer lady, and she was talking about the eclipse that was coming. And she said that I hope most of you, I know not all of you were able to see the eclipse, but most of you could see it and could experience it. But she was saying something like, this eclipse will have the power, has the power to change everyone's life, to impact everyone's life. And so I heard this, I guess it must have been 2 weeks ago, because I heard it before this war that erupted. And whenever I hear a teaching like that, I'm like, oh boy, like that's going to be something really good. That it's going to be this great change and have this great impact on our lives. And the eclipse came, and then she said, like, before it will be real powerful, and then right after it. And I see our world erupting into great violence. It's like we human beings, we have a choice. We all have this choice. We all have the same mind. We all have the same emotional nature. We all have the same collective consciousness. The biggest thing we can do to stand for peace is through being undivided inside. Through loving fully and completely. And so it's this great challenge of, can we start with ourselves, can we love ourselves fully and completely? Can we not divide parts of ourselves? You know, the parts we like, the parts we don't like, the parts we accept, the parts we don't accept. The ones who deserve to live and the ones who don't deserve to live. It was when I was glancing around on the, you know, the different news channels, and I listened to a little bit of everything. And so I'll listen to everything from like Fox News to independent journalism to uh, Al Jazeera news. So it's just like get like the whole span. And both sides, I've seen people are so quick to be spouting about genocide. It's utterly heartbreaking to hear human beings just so confident that these race of people need to be wiped off the earth. And it's like, this is not the way. This is not the way to live. This is not the way to be. And we can ask ourselves, do we look at parts of our own self? Do we look at parts of our own self with utter disgust, utter contempt? And I can say that the first decade, my life on the spiritual path, I looked at a large portion of my psyche, of my humanity. And I just wanted to get out a sword and just cut it out of me. It took me many years to realize that's not the way. That's not the way. Violence is not the way. It's not the way. It's not the way. Love is the way. Truth is the way. Clarity is the way. Forgiveness is the way. Reconciliation is the way. Kindness is the way. Peace is the way. But the first thing I had to do, to make this shift in consciousness from one where I hated myself to one where I loved myself, was to forgive this one and to forgive this one for being human. Later on down the road, I realized, oh, it's like God made me human. It's like it's God's fault. It's not my fault. It's not our fault. It's not the Palestinians' fault. It's not the Jews' fault. God made us like this. God actually made us a lot of different ways, a lot of different ways. And then God gave us the power to choose. How are you going to be? Are we going to live in alignment with that which is higher, that which is good, that which is beautiful, that which is forgiving? Or are we going to live in a way which is violent? And it's interesting in 2023 that our world just keeps choosing violence. It's like, did anyone go to history class? Like, did anyone see what happened last century? I can remember I was with my father and I stood in these fields in France, where the Battle of Somme was, as where the trench warfare was. You can still see the trenches today. I mean, it's farmland. It's like rolling farmland, but you can still see like the trenches, like they've kind of filled in, and then you can see these giant craters, and there's these mass graves with, like just like in that area, you'll see a mass grave with, a couple hundred soldiers in it. Then you find another grave with a couple thousand. And one grave I went to, it was something crazy. It was like 10 or 20,000 soldiers just like bulldozed into a pile. That was World War I. It was supposed to be the war to end all wars. And it's like, they came out of that and had another war after that. It's like, what is wrong with us? That we can't just wake up to this basic truth. This basic truth. These are our brothers and sisters. That we're all divine beings. We're one human race. And I know that most of you aren't rushing out to war, but we're off to war. But again, we need to look in our consciousness and see all the ways we create war on the inside. All the ways we create and add to violence on the inside. All the ways. And so it's a great question we can ask ourselves. If we find ourselves lost on the path, we can ask, am I creating peace? My thoughts and my words and my actions. Am I connected to peace inside? Or am I aligned? Am I aligned with something crazy inside? Like sometimes I just look at some thoughts that go through my mind and just like, my God, where did these thoughts even come from? Like, where do they come? They're absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like, am I going to go? Am I going to float down the river with some crazy thoughts? Am I going to get out of that boat? Am I going to find a point of clarity? Am I going to say no? There's someone in the Sangha who emails me like 5, 6, 7, sometimes like 9 times a day, just telling me like the crazy thoughts that are going in their mind. And I was just like, that's not the way. Like, can we stop and say no? No, just a simple no. When you see insanity in your mind, can we say no? And then recognize, oh, look, there's absolute peace right here in this moment. Absolute love. A spaciousness that has no end. No end. Can I stop right now and see this and experience this? I found myself at church today. My little girl's in the choir, so we've been going to church a bunch lately and listening to her sing. And the priest today, he said this funny thing. He said, Jesus didn't teach much about going to heaven. It really wasn't in his teachings at all. He said, Jesus spoke about this world of divinity that's right here, right now, right here, right now. And as we wake up to this world, we stop being crazy. We stop being divided. We stop thinking about who's wrong. Are the Jews wrong? Are the Palestinians wrong? Which one is wrong? Which one is bad? Which one is the enemy? We stop thinking that I'm right and my wife is wrong. We stop thinking in that way. When we wake up to the beauty and the immediacy of this moment, I have this backyard. God has been so good to me. I walk outside my backyard, and there's just these big mountains just right there and this huge sky. It's like, it is so hard for me to walk outside my house and to be divided, to be confused, to be lost, to be suffering. I just walk outside. It's just so shocking, the immensity of the sky. It's just so huge. The expanse of consciousness. So utterly beautiful, this earth. And most of us, we walk around, we don't see the earth. We just walk around in the fantasy land of our thoughts and fighting with this and that and arguing with this or that, or desiring or wanting or thinking, I need something else. And the great invitation of this path, again, if we find ourselves lost, is to come back to this core teaching of waking up. Like, if we're suffering, it's most likely because we're arguing with something in our mind. Most likely. I know, of course, that our bodies do suffer, and sometimes it's just that our body suffers. Like, I was, y'all should have seen me today at this pumpkin patch that I was at. They had this giant blown up, it was like a candy corn. It was like, but it was big. It was like this big, it was like a bubble in the earth, like this big rubber, I don't know what you call it, bladder, I guess would be the word, just, filled with air. And you could get probably like 50 kids on it, and my little girl and my buddy, his older daughter, they both like grab my hand and they say, come on, Dad, come on. And so I said, okay. And it's like a bounce house, but like you just jump on this thing. And I've got this physical condition where it's really hard for me to breathe. And so it makes my life difficult. But, I got up on this thing and I was just jumping and chasing my little girl and acting like I was a monster and just having some fun with these kids. And boy, I was so lightheaded and I could barely breathe. And my body was just really suffering. Like I was having a really hard time, just to get some oxygen. It's almost like it brings tears to my eyes how hard it was to breathe. But I was just so in love with the moment. Just so in love. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop running and jumping and bouncing. I just didn't engage any of the thoughts. Like a normal thought would be, this shouldn't be happening. You should be feeling better. You should be whatever. But there was just so much love there, and so much, I guess the spiritual term would have been joy, just so much joy of being awake with two children, just running and chasing them, being alive and being vibrant and being full of light, full of light. And so it's a great question is, what are we connected to? Like, are we connected to our complaining nature? Are we connected to just our nervous system and how it's feeling? Or are we connected to our consciousness? Are we our consciousness? What is it that I am? What is it that I am? What is it? Who is it that I am? Am I an old bag of bones with a health condition? Or am I this bright light? This bright light. I had another funny experience when I was at church. One of my old high school students came up to me and he said this thing to me just as I was walking in. And, there was no seats in the church. So we end up sitting in the front row. And this keeps happening when I go to churches. So I always end up in the front row. And my buddy came up to me. Again, he was one of my old high school students, but we're both, almost 50. And so, but he came up to me and he said, Craig, I'm surprised you didn't catch on fire when you came in here. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know what the heck he's talking. Like, what does he mean? And I thought he was just talking like I was on fire because I'm like such a bright light. What he was really saying is he was saying that I should be burning up in hell because I'm such a sinner. But again, like, it all depends on what state of consciousness you're in. What state of consciousness are you? Like, I could have taken it, as some heavy-handed judgment and taken some great offense to it. But instead, I was just really open. And sometimes when you're really open and someone says something to you crazy, you're just really confused. You're confused, but in a good way. In a good way. Like when aliens, like when they come here to planet Earth and they look at us humans killing each other, they must just be like, huh, I wonder why they do that to each other. I wonder why. Just confused. Like, why would they do that? Why would human beings want to kill each other? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And that's one of the things we find when we are radically open. There's a lot of things that people do, a lot of things that people say that just don't make any sense. They just don't make any sense. It's one of the reasons if you ever go visit a great saint, a great sage, a lot of times like someone will come up to them and say something and have some big question or some philosophical question or some question about something terrible that's happened in their life. And sometimes that sage just lets out a big guttural belly laughter, just like laughing like crazy at the experience of being human. All the ways we can become divided, all the ways we can become attached, all the ways we can get lost, all the ways we are confused, all the ways we fight and struggle with this world. With this world. And so, anyways, if anyone has another question, I invite it forward. Anyone has anything they want to share, they can put it in the chat. Okay, a couple people pop their hands up. Let's see. And so I just ask that the question is short and clear and direct, please. And thank you. Let's hear from Tyler. See if I can press the buttons right. Okay, Tyler, are you here?
Hey, you hearing me? Check.
Yeah,
1, 2.
Tyler, good to see you.
Hey, Craig. So, this summer, I'll try to do this in 5 sentences.
Okay, let's see what
This
you got.
summer, this summer, my landlord sent me an email saying that they were doubling our rent for the next year, and we had 5 days to decide what I wanted to do. So, naturally, these 2 angel agents came into my life, and we looked at a bunch of properties, and I found the best possible bet because I didn't want to be working with a landlord that could do something like that to somebody. It just felt like unstable ground to have a business on because they could do that again at any time,
Yeah.
Um, and I found this place. I was excited about it. I showed my employees. Um, they didn't like it too much, and um, the plan was to move next month, and they are all having very cold feet. And I had this wonderful meditation Friday, where I felt so open-hearted, the most open-hearted I've felt since the retreat. Really, just spacious, going into work, getting ready to get everybody on board for this move.
Yeah.
And I was met with 4 of the saddest faces and scared faces I've
Is it because the people
seen.
have to drive further? Is that what it is?
It's a little bit more of a drive for some people, um, but there's things they like about the current space, but it really just feels like an attitude issue. It's habit. This is what they know, and they're afraid of the unknown. And I after that meeting, I was left. My shop manager was like, "Hey, I want you to look at some more spaces. Could you look at some more spaces?" And it felt like I was working retail and someone saw a blue sweater and it's like, "Can you check the back for a purple sweater?" And I know there's not a purple sweater back there, but I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll check the back for better spaces. This
Okay.
is the best space." So I'm noticing this anger come up that just wants to be like, "I tried my best. I'm the boss. We're moving. That's it. Like, look forward and be present. And this is what's happening. Like,
Yeah.
please have a better attitude, about this." But this anger comes up every time because I just feel pressured by my landlord who forced me to move, and my team who's very against this move. And I want to bring this message for us. I want to get them on board with a nice way, with compassion, with kindness, to embrace the fact that they're sad about leaving some of these things and help feel that with them. But I tried that on Friday when I spoke to everybody, and it didn't really work when I was all spacious and everything. So I don't know what to do. Do I just say I'm the boss? Do I do a more paternal leadership style? Because I'm very maternal in my
You know
leadership
what?
style.
You know what Snoop Dogg says?
What does Snoop Dogg say?
Old habits are hard to break. Old habits are hard to break. Yeah. And so human beings, like, we're tribal creatures, we're territorial creatures. And so for a lot of us, it takes time. It takes time. And it was beautiful what you said. You tried to set the tone and, let everyone know and, get them excited about it and this and that. But, it sounds like they might need some more support with that. They might need some more support. And you might need some more patience just with them. And this is one of the things, like sometimes when we are, especially if we're a leader, like our job is kind of, to lead forward, to run forward, to get to the top of the mountain first. But, we need to have patience too for the stragglers, for the people who need a little bit more time, for the people who are a little bit, who are slow movers, who are a little stuck in their way. I mean, it sounds like the basic truth is you're moving and you're moving into this new place. And so, if this is the truth, you follow the truth, you have faith in the truth. And we can even invite God to come down, into your workforce, inviting the grace of God, to help move along the people, help move along their energy, to help them to open, to see this, and the new possibilities and the change, and to welcome the change, to accept the change. Like in any circumstance, we can invite the presence of the divine to come forward and to be with those who are struggling. Yeah, and so this is what I would encourage. This is what I would encourage. And so, have a little more patience with them. And, you might have to, come at them and say, I've really looked and I've made my decision. And I know this is difficult for some of us. And, but, I'm going to invite everyone to be open to this. And this is the deal. This is the deal. And again, just to have some patience just with human beings. Like we get so attached to things. It's like one of the hardest things for people to do is actually to sell their house, the house they've lived in, because they have to let go of so much. And sometimes it's just like the energy of habit that they have to let go of. They're not even so attached to the physicality of it, but it's the energy of habit of just having a lot of the energies of their life circulate around this one place. And it's just it's silly. Like I've got these two little dogs, and sometimes like I'll take Doodles out on a walk, and it's like he really wants to pee on this one tree over there. Like he really wants to go pee on that, and he's like pulling me as hard as he can so he can go pee on that damn tree. And like sometimes there's like a car coming and I'll like pull him and he'll just like resist and want to go there. And it's like humans, we're like that. We're just territorial. It's like that's my spot. This is where I go. Like this is my deal. And sometimes we forget like we're such I use like one of Joe Rogan's terms, we're territorial apes. It's just like we freak out over territory. I mean, heck, that's what this whole war and in Israel and Palestine's about, is just we're being territorial apes, just fighting over this ground. And we're attached to it. This is my home. This is my work. This is mine. And the funny thing that God often teaches us is this is not yours. God teaches us time and time again, this is mine. This is mine. And God taught me that, just in this last year as I moved me across country and back. It's just like, God's like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you where your home is. But any home, any place of work, any piece of dirt, it's all temporary. It's all temporary. And so it's our job to go with the flow. And so Tyler, you do your best, and you cheer them on, and you be patient. So it's like you cheer them on, you support them, and we're patient. Because change is just a part of life. Part of life. Yeah, beautiful. Good to be with you, Tyler. Yeah.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, of course. All right. Let's see here. Let's hear from Aaron.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Aaron, good to see you.
Good to see you, everyone. Um, yeah, I have more of a share that I'd like you to reflect on as opposed to a specific
Yeah,
question.
sure.
I've, I've been on this journey over the last couple of years, exploring more traditional paths, particularly uh, Shaiva Tantra or Trika Shaivism. I went to Costa Rica um, and then I kind of got spat out by that teacher, and then I've been visiting with another teacher, um, and then it just dawned on me that like a traditional container isn't actually appropriate for me, and that my unfolding up until now hasn't been traditional.
Yeah.
Like the path that they're describing hasn't been mine,
Yeah.
and it was just like, wow, I'm trying to fit myself into this shape
Yeah.
for
So why?
legitimacy,
Oh, okay. So you just said for legitimacy.
for legitimacy of my awakening,
Yeah.
ability to teach these kinds of like, oh, I need a traditional, I need a traditional guru, I need a traditional path.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what's gonna give
Yeah.
me the stamp. That's how
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well,
know
well,
that
you
I'm the
know
real deal.
who's to blame for this whole thing? Because like the whole thing is crumbling. It's the evolutionary nature of God. It's like she's just destroying traditional paths. Like she's just like right and left is destroying them. In fact, like it's probably what's at the heart. Like if we step way back and we look at like what's at the heart of this war, is probably the hand of the Divine Mother destroying traditional systems. The Jewish system, the Muslim system. I mean, God's hand is just absolutely destroyed the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, like all these containers, the yogic traditions, like time and time again. I mean, they've been destroyed with scandal after scandal. The Buddhist traditions, again, scandal after scandal. As people have lost faith, and even like if we look at just like the world stage, we've lost faith in Democrats, we've lost faith in Republicans, we're losing faith in parties, we've lost faith in quote unquote science and pharmaceutical companies and this type of thing. Is just like so much of the world right now is losing faith in institutions. And like you may have like a real sincere thing of like, I would like to be a part of a path that is, that has that foundation of legitimacy over, the span of time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it seems like you busted yourself because you saw like, that's not my truth. That's not your truth.
I did. I
You
did.
like,
Yeah. And I got
yeah.
my ass kicked along the way, which
Well,
has been
and
great.
you should like that's how God talks to us. Like when we walk in a direction that's not the truth, or and again like that's not a judgment on you like walking in a direction
Yeah.
that's not the truth. It's just like God will show us this ain't the truth. Like this isn't the truth. And what God is trying to show us now is I am everywhere. I'm everywhere. I'm in everything.
Mm,
And can you be open to that? Can you realize that? Can you know this?
right.
Can you know this? Can you experience this? How about can you trust this? Like that's going
Right.
to be the big thing for you is can you trust in this? Can you trust that your experience is true?
Right.
Is true. And Aaron, like not only your experience, but if there is a desire here, like I don't do this thing that a lot of people say, well, like at one point, the guru says to the disciple, now you teach, and then we have this big ceremony.
Right.
I look at a real simple thing. Like if you have a desire to go build a house, like go get a hammer and some tools,
Yeah.
go build a house. Like, if you have a desire to teach Pilates, teach Pilates. If you have a desire to learn how to work on cars or play guitar, like go do that. If it's a true desire, follow it. That is God waking up in you. Like do that thing. And so like somehow we make this thing like, oh, you're a spiritual teacher, and so it has to come from this. If God is in your heart, how is that different than the guru in your heart?
Yep.
Like if God, like our world needs people who are willing to share the light, who are willing to teach about consciousness, who are willing to say, like, I want to spend my life investigating these questions. Like there's people who spend their life investigating UFOs. It's like if I didn't have God, that might be me. Like that might be me. I spend my life investigating UFOs.
That's your number two. That's your number two.
It's like I wanted to know God. Yeah. So that's what my life's about. It's this exploration, and to see it as I want to teach and share and explore this question. And I mean, my God, you also work in the world of psychology. So it's like understanding the psyche, understanding what it means to be human, understanding growth, focusing on growth, supporting each other and healing. The further we walk in the realm of psychology, it all comes about, it all turns into, waking up, beyond,
right.
This limited egoic identification into something greater. And so it just seems like a natural step. And so to follow this, to follow it, and to see this is something good, this is something true. And you'll find, like, if we get off course, whether we're a mechanic or a home builder or a spiritual teacher, life will correct us. Life will say, hey, you're being a little crazy. It's a little too much. It's a little of this. If we become an illegitimate mechanic,
right?
It's like our customers will write us a Google review, or they'll say, or I'm not going to pay you, or whatever. Like they will correct us.
Right.
And so, like we don't need to wait for some stamp from anyone. Like you listen to the truth as it's arising in your heart.
Right.
And our world needs individuals who are willing to share about something higher. Like, please. I mean, there's like, and our world is designed for this right now. If we just look at like YouTube as a manifestation of the divine. Like I go on there and I find a guy who'll tell me how to change the oil in my 2013 Toyota. It's like, thank you so much for that guy. We can also find out how to pray. How to open our hearts, how to heal, how to do some crazy tantric kundalini practice or something. Like we could find it all on there. And so please, like, share, because there's people out there who will be supported by whatever greater truth that wants to move through you. And again, if we become illegitimate in any way, life will correct us, and we listen to that. We learn from it, we grow, we course correct, and we try again. But I love it. Like when I go to like how to change the oil in my 2013 Toyota, I needed a special wrench, and like the guy in the video said, use this one wrench. And then I read in the comments, all the people complained about this one wrench. It was a piece of junk and it broke the little hub that the oil filter housing went in. And it's like, okay, like it course corrected. Like I found the truth. And I'm thankful for these people for sharing, even like the first guy who shared, and he shared a little bit wrong, a little bit off. And some people came along and helped him, which helped me. And this is the world we live in now. Like I invite you to share your truth. And that part of you that feels illegitimate, Yeah, that's a funny word to say, but is that the right word? Illegitimate.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. Can you love that one? Can you be with that one? Can you hold that one and say, I see you and I love you? And oh my God, you are not illegitimate. You are not an illegitimate child.
Right.
You're a child of the Most High. And let me hold you here. Let me embrace you. Maybe let me even bring you forward and make you my first student. How about that? Because that's, the way I teach is I am my first student.
Sure.
Like this one here is the first student. Like this one here is the first student. And so can we teach to that one? Can we love that one? Can we honor that one? Can we include that one? And when we include that one, we tend to come forward with a greater sense of intimacy and connectivity and humility. And boy, does that make a great teacher. When someone's willing to have those qualities of humility and intimacy and being deeply connected with their own heart. The know-it-all tends to be the worst teacher. It's like the one who has all the right lingo and all this and that. It's like, the Sanskrit vocabulary words. It's like some people really like that, but to me, it's just like we could all take the Sanskrit vocabulary test, but it doesn't necessarily get us that much closer to being awake. I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does.
Right. Yeah.
But you sharing your heart
Totally
is a beautiful thing.
That's right. Yeah. I think the last thing that I want to say, Anna Craig, is that on the way, I feel like like I said, I've really gotten my ass kicked, and it's been supremely helpful. That if any of these teachers had been sweet and met me in the places that I needed to, I'd be off on some offshoot. Instead, I got my ass handed to me, and that was just, it wasn't just those paths spitting me out. It was like God giving me back to myself.
God giving you back to yourself. And it's funny because in the moment we take offense to it. We feel so hurt. So these people let me down, this and that. And how could they do this? And meanwhile, God is just busy saying, like, look, this isn't your home. This is your place. I just had to use that character to upset you so you would leave. And that's just how I work. And that's the mystery of grace. Like, that's the mystery of grace. And that helps us to kind of circle back to that teaching, like all is God, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes us a couple of years to realize, oh, those really ugly things that happened were actually so utterly supportive.
Yeah.
Like, I really needed that. I needed that to fail. Yeah. I needed that to fail. Like I had a real similar thing where I went off to India and I met all these great gurus. And I realized, oh, like, none of this is my home.
Right.
Like, none of these are my teacher. Like, I already had my teacher. I already had my teacher. And here I drove, flew all the way across the world. I got so sick. It's just like terrible. I had some fun experiences, some exciting experiences, all kinds of Shakti and this and that. But at the end of the day, I just realized, like this isn't it. This isn't it. It's just like it's not my home.
Right.
It's not my home. And, a lot of us, we want, a lot of us want a home that has like all the spiritual get up and everything. Right. And all the right, what's that word? It's a funny word, accoutrements, if that's the right word. Yeah. Like we want that. We want the robes. Like I always wanted the robes. I wanted like the whole thing. And it's like when you wear all that stuff, when you have all that stuff, it's almost like easier because you see like, oh, namaste, like everything is divine. And when you're out in the world, it's hard to recognize like, oh, everything is divine, like namaste. Like you go see Amma, and it's like everyone's like bowing and sweet and all this type of thing. And it's easy to see the divinity there, like in the ashram.
Right. Right.
When you come into the world,
Yeah.
it could be much more difficult.
Yeah.
Much more difficult. But
Yeah.
the beauty is when you wake up in the world, your
Mm.
realization becomes unshakable. Unshakable. Because what I've seen with most ashram folks is they're actually hiding out there.
Sure.
Like literally, it's like a fortress that there's so much fear. So much fear out of so many monks and nuns and swamis and that I've met who are just like they're just terrified of the outside world. Not the outside world will gobble them up. But when you go out into the world and you wake up in the world and you let the world gobble you up, you realize, oh, it is all divine. It's all beautiful. It's all radiant. Like this immense spaciousness, it is here in my home, in my room. It's in Walmart. It's at Home Depot. It's at, it's at the beach, it's in the mountains. It's in traffic.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. And our realization becomes unshakable when we can see and experience directly this light, this love, this space, this peace, this silence. I say when we can realize it in hell, in difficulty,
Right.
in difficulty, because then we know, oh, this thing is abiding. This thing is abiding. But if we only realize it in the ashram container, or in that bubble around Fairfield, Iowa, it's like, wait a second. Like, what kind of realization is this? What kind is it? And Aaron, this is what the world needs, and this is God's plan. God's plan is to crumble the traditions so that all humans can wake up, no matter where they are. No matter where they are, through and throughout creation. Just like that teaching of Christ, it's here, all about the earth. No one sees it. No one sees it. But we see it. We see it. And so can we be the ones who see it? And we might have to be a little bit like, Tyler in the last question is like, it's here. It's here. It's not just in the church. It's here. It's everywhere. And we might have, get some resistance from people because they're like, huh, what? Like, really? It's like, yeah, it's here. It's here. It's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really last thing, those traditional paths are part of me. They taught me a great deal, and
Of course.
they live in me as well. But I feel like I found like, oh, this lineage, you and Cesare and and of course going back to David and Hilda, and it's just like Nityanandaji. It's just like, oh, good.
Yeah.
What am I looking for?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
already
And like,
learned
if you want Shaivism, like you go back Nityanandaji, it's like,
right.
like absolutely there. Absolutely there.
Right.
Absolutely there. But again, like that's the foundation. We bow before like all the great ones before us. Absolutely. But now's the time for those institutions to crumble and for this realization to happen in the world. In the world. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. Good to be with you. Yeah. All right. Daniel.
Hey guys. I haven't been here for a long time, so thanks for welcoming me.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to formulate this. I've been having a lot of cognitive issues, and I feel as though it's starting to work, the kundalini is starting to work more on my head than my body. And I mean, they've been there for a long time intermittently, and I'm just becoming more conscious of them again.
When you say them, what are we talking about?
Everything feels really slippery. I feel like I'm in this place where I'm just waiting for something to happen, and I can't make things happen anymore. And We live in a world where you kind of need to make things happen, and it's causing me to become very fearful about how to live in this material world and, just get by.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is just
those are two
creating.
things I want you to look at. You said we live in a world where we need to make things happen.
Mhm.
And then you said something else. I think I lost it. So
That
let's just start with this. So I want you to imagine that perhaps something big is happening within you. And then the great question is can you trust in that? And so instead of thinking like, I need to make something happen, can you trust that something big is happening within you? And when you say like there's all these cognitive things happening, like I call that, like one of the stages I call that is like the great eraser, where God comes into your mind and just starts erasing, emptying the hard drive. And it's very disorienting. It's very confusing. And it can be very messy in a human way. Now I'm going to tell you just, what my teacher told me is Craig, just do what's necessary. Like in order to make your life work. So just like do whatever's necessary. And for me, it was just like bare minimum working at that time. You're just making a little bit of money, putting some food on the table, paying rent, and trusting in this process. Just trusting in the process. And the process, my God, did it, whittle me down to the bone. And it's still doing this. Like there's still things where like even the last couple months, I've looked at my mind and it's going, my mind is shifting in another huge way that has been confusing. It's been a little disorienting. It's just been just a little bit just hazy, where it'll just go absolutely blank. But in the background, I just hear, this basic truth of trust. Just trust. Just go with the flow and trust while I work on you. And I'm just hearing like this basic voice of God. Just trust while I work on you. And so it's very difficult for me like to do anything extra in my life. Like I just do the bare minimum. And I let God handle all the rest. And I trust that like everything that needs to be done will get done. Everything will fall into place eventually. The thing that I tell people to watch out for is sometimes we get stuck in a place where it's almost like a fearful place and a place of being like a spiritual victim where it's like, oh, I can't do anything. And I want you, it's always good to check and see like, do I have that? And like, who and what would I be? Like, would my life be different if I just pressed the pause button on that voice? And instead just looked out at life with open eyes and deep listening in the heart. And we just followed a basic truth going forward. Just followed a basic truth going forward. So if an opportunity presents itself, that we listen in our heart and let our heart tell us what the truth is, instead of like that part of us that feels which I'm having a hard time with my words tonight. Insufficient, or part of us that feels like a victim of life or victim of God, or feels like, a spiritual train wreck. Like, we don't listen to those parts. We just listen to this basic truth in our heart. If we're presented with an opportunity, if we see something, we hear something, and if our heart says yes, we go forward. And we care less about how we feel. Because sometimes we place way too much authority in how we feel in our mind. Like, my mind has to be perfectly clear and right on for me to go forward and make a move in life. Like, sometimes we just need to go forward with trust. Just with trust. And then God works the kinks out. And sometimes it can be messy. Sometimes things can be really messy. But what I've found a lot of grace with in life is, like, sometimes it just feels really messy for me because my inner world is falling apart, my ego is falling apart. But on the outside, no one really knows. And they're too lost in their thing, or too much dealing with their own life to be worried about how we're doing. And so it's just like, the spiritual people sometimes are just like a little too overly self-conscious, which one of the things that happens as we walk on the path, like we get far along, our self-consciousness falls away. And we just start moving. We just start moving, and we don't even know how or why, where it's taking us. And it's just like, this is the way. This is the way. So I'm going to encourage you to play with this, and even to smile and to feel blessed. Like, some of us were like, I want ego death. But as soon as God starts erasing the teeniest bits of our ego, we freak out and we feel like we're losing control. It's like, no, we got to get very comfortable. Very comfortable. Surfing these waves of the disillusion of the egoic identity. We got to get very comfortable, just kind of like hanging out and floating and just seeing like, okay, like, let's see how this turns out. Let's see how this turns out. And so trust can be so utterly helpful. So utterly supportive on this path. When things are kind of really dissolving and falling away, it's just like, can we trust and realize, oh, the intelligence of the universe is doing my life? What if I just sat back and smiled and enjoyed the ride? But when God tells us to do something, we step forward and we go for it. We say, okay, let's see. Like, you show me, God. Like, oftentimes I just say that, you show me, God, how this works out. You show me. Because I'm feeling really empty and disoriented right now. I don't know how this works out, but you show me. You show me. You show me. Yeah. Now hold on a second. I lost you there. Can you say that again?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I'm muted. Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like there's still this resistance around like feeling as though I'm like the doer parts,
Yeah.
I'm not doing enough. I'm like, I feel personally victimized in some ways still.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can see
So
that starting to shift.
we hold
Yeah.
those places with love.
Mm.
We let the doer burn in the eternal fire of grace, and that can be a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So we hold the fearful parts with love. We let the doer burn up. And again, like, there might be some screaming and some kicking and some whining. It's freaking out, holding the steering wheel a little tighter and tenser. So we let that burn up.
Mm.
But then we're listening deeply. we're listening deeply. And so we let go of doing, but we really turn up the listening. So if there's any listening, if there's any doing, it's listening. And then we follow the truth in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's where it leads you. Yeah. You got something else?
Well, just, I'm not sure. Is there like a sharing section after this? I haven't done this in a while. Is it okay if I share something real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you want to share?
Okay. So I got back from Israel a day before the fighting started, and
Oh, wow.
when I went there, I was really seeking to reconnect with the Jewish identity that I was raised up in.
Yeah.
And pretty much from the second I got there onwards, my entire reason for being there just was ripped away from me. And I was plunged into this massive spiral of shame and self-hatred. And I was pretty much like living from age 13 up to high school, or like, I guess I want to say college, like watching that being slowly wiped from me. Like at least all that teen angst and all the things that I associated with my Judaism. And I went once to Jerusalem the entire time. And the whole time I'm hating myself for not doing the tourist thing and not doing the Jewish thing and not being some sort of, I don't know, not like, I was forcing myself. And something, I just felt so out of alignment the entire time. And I finally left, and I get back and I wake up the next morning after, settling in, and I check the news and I see the fighting broke out. And now it makes sense. And everything you just shared helped me really piece it all together. But I felt like a complete abject failure the whole time. And it just wasn't right. And so I don't know. I just wanted to share that while it was fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a funny thing that is so often on the spiritual path is we find ourselves failing and failing and failing. And then we realize, oh, I was supposed to fail. That's a good thing. And it's a good thing because it helps us to wake up to that which is true, to that which is true. Yeah. 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 It's a crazy thing. It's one of the great ways that God works with us is through just having us fail again and again and again. And I can't tell you how many times in my life where it's just like, I failed miserably again and again and again. It's like I wasn't able to pull this thing off. And God's like, yeah, that's right, because you're not supposed to. Because I have something better for you, something greater, because you've outgrown that thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks, Daniel, for sharing.
Yeah,
How beautiful.
for sure.
And I'm really happy you got home safe before you got stuck there in a whole world of trouble, a whole world of trouble.
I've moved back home, and I'm like, all right, like I'm living with my parents, but at least I have a roof over my head, and I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
Very grateful.
No, I had a story. A good friend of mine, he had like the flip of what you had, like he was getting ready, to fly away, and then the war broke out, and it was just like, oh, not going to Israel anytime soon. It's just like, he's like, okay, trip is over, game over in that department. It's just like, just into that, and it's just crazy. It's crazy, but life is awake and alive and will correct us, will steer us and will lead us, if we listen. And sometimes like we listen and we feel like all kinds of, crazy emotions inside, and we think we're doing something wrong, but sometimes we are awake, and it's our body and its life is speaking to us saying, hey, this isn't the way. This isn't the way. Let me help you find your home. Yeah. Well, so beautiful, my friend. Well, nice to be with you, and so much love to each of you. And Yeah, we'll see y'all next time. Okay. Bye for now. Goodbye.
Bye.